Welcome back to Blueshirts Buzz, where we talk everything New York Rangers. I'm your host, Matt Piscazzi, with my co-host, John Horton. Definitely check out our Twitter at BlueBuzz26, and let's hop right into today's episode. So I'm glad to be back. Sorry I missed you guys on the last one, but John came in clutch, delivered an awesome little solo shot for you guys. Shouldn't really happen too much moving forward. Just started work, and it's been a little crazy. I was actually at work a couple hours late that night. It was a lovely time. No, it was terrible. I was tired, and I wanted to come home and record, but here we are. Happy to be back for another one, and happy that we have some preseason hockey to be talking about. So, first and foremost, how are you doing? I'm glad to be back on the six. I missed you, buddy.
I missed you too. I'm doing a lot better now that thank God you're back here talking to myself. I do that enough on a daily basis, but doing it while recording is even worse. It's fantastic to have hockey back. It almost feels unreal how quickly it came back. Like it was so barren, and now here it is again, and we're getting back into it. And the expectations are through the roof. I mean, this is probably, as I said in the last episode that I talked to you about too, like this is kind of pretty much the year that this year and maybe a little bit of next year, depending on how many people we can keep with
Mm.
signings and redoing, because there's just so many contracts, big contracts, important player contracts that are coming up at the end of this season. So I think it's extremely important this season goes pretty much all the way. And if it doesn't, it's going to be kind of hard to see where we go from there. Not that the whole team is, going to be in a retool or rebuild, but it's going to be like kind of a small retool, I think, which is why Jacob Trouba made the comments of, this is kind of the year for this core. Everybody feels it in the room. Um, you know, it, Nobody doesn't feel that way, which I was curious what you thought with his comments on that in regards to that, because hopefully it's the last year of Jacob Trouba too, regardless
Yeah.
of a cup win or not. But yeah, so I mean,
No,
how you feeling?
I get his point. I don't, because I could see how some people would like look at that and be like, "Why are you saying something like that? Why is that where your head's at?" Stuff like that. Like you don't really necessarily want to hear your players saying things like that, but I understand where he's coming from. Also, I don't mind that mindset because realistically, like you had pointed out, our window's closing. This is the final year where we don't have a giant cap contract headache situation that we're going to have to deal with. Realistically, when you look at the numbers, it's just we're not going to be able to keep everybody. If we are, then we can't bring in other pieces as well. There's possibilities for different trades and things like that to kind of open up more options. But then, of course, we're giving up assets, and that's not something that you really want to necessarily be doing, to kind of sustain a franchise for years and years and years. You kind of have to build up assets, and then, you kind of want to sit on some of those. But if we're retooling and moving a lot of pieces, I get where he's coming from, and honestly, it's not the worst thing for our captain to be saying. I guess, like I kind of think it's you could look at it and be like, oh, like that puts pressure, but I think it's more of like a motivation thing. It's like not like us as fans, we recognize the situation that the team's going to be in after this season. I think some of these players recognize that as well, and so that can be a motivation and that can be a driving force to bring out the best in some of these guys. We talk a lot over the past few years about this team and sometimes like that lack of drive and that lack of motivation, and you see guys kind of throwing their hands up in the air and throwing their head down. And so maybe this can be something that's another motivating factor to kind of get rid of some of those older kind of demons, so to speak, and move forward and be a consistently good, driven, hardworking hockey team that we were for almost all of last year and for a lot of the playoffs as well. But of course, we still saw some of that stuff kind of come back to haunt us. So I think all in all, I'm not mad at it. I kind of like it. I think it's kind of like a, you know what, when the rubber hits the road, let's get going. That's it. This is, it's showtime. It's go time. It's almost like if everybody were in a contract year, like we need everybody to be playing their best every single night and trying their hardest. Really, we need maximum effort. So I like it. I think it sends a message. And as much as Truba's been a kind of a polarizing figure in the past, I have to say that I like this move from him, and it's encouraging because I think it shows a level of care and motivation and also excitement for this year. And I would imagine that he's not the only player in the locker room that's saying things like that. So it gets me excited is I guess how I'll end that little
Yeah.
segment. I mean, I know you don't necessarily get too excited about Truba these days, but I'm not mad at it. I'm really not. I kind of like it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's good that he's not delusional. That was one thing
Mhm.
about Trouba is he always, as a captain, I haven't really been his full time supporter, but he does keep it real at times, which I do appreciate. And you saw, with the preseason game against the Islanders, where we were losing pretty bad, and we came back and beat them. It was like mid-season form for both teams. Rangers had a
Mm,
comeback win, which they led the league in last year, and the Islanders gave up a third period lead, which is another continuation. So,
yeah.
um, and that was another thing that was frustrating about last season too, is we had all these comeback wins, we set all these records, and we just couldn't get it done against Florida. And who knows if we would have beat Edmonton? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, Connor McDavid was on another level, but
Mm,
yeah, that Panthers team. Um, Gotta see what they do next year. Hopefully, they stay far away because they made some interesting signings, and
yeah.
they were able to keep. They kept that team together more than I thought they would. I thought they would blow up a little more, but I don't know. Um, but yeah, it's time to really lock in and get serious because it's just kind of getting as close as we did last year. Minimal changes to the team. Everyone's kind of still the same coach, second year, so the system's a little more familiar. Had a whole off season to fester and think about it, and in the regards of what needs to be done in order to achieve the ultimate victory in the NHL. So we will hope as we cover this team monthly what they can do. So, but the thing that doesn't help us get to that end road victory is having half the core get injured during a preseason game, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I understand can't control when you're going to get injured. I mean, I don't know if you saw Drew Doughty's disgusting injury that happened to him. He's probably going to be
Oh.
out. Yeah, he
Ooh.
was going for the puck on the sideboards. I don't know why he was going so hard. It's preseason. He's Drew Doughty, and he just awkwardly crashed into the boards, and his ankle just got mangled really bad, and
Ooh.
I don't know when he'll be back. At his age, I don't know,
You
it's
gotta,
bad.
yeah, that's like debilitating. You gotta figure it's gonna be a while.
Yeah. So, and the dominoes started to fall for us when, Hedo got hit pretty bad in open ice. It kinda looked like a dirty hit at first, but I don't know, it was almost knee to knee, but it was more knee to
Mm,
thigh, and the shock of that hit, it was a big guy, I forgot who it was, but he was a big guy who had him, in the thigh, and then he went down, had to get taken to the locker room, and then, of course, Ryan Lindgren's like, "Let me stand up for Hito," which I do admire,
mm,
but he doesn't protect himself. That was the biggest concern with Ranger fans getting a contract done with him, and unfortunately, the Rangers failed in getting a long-term contract done with him, and this might be the last season of Ryan Lindgren because of that. And he took some nasty uppercuts and punches to the face. And then now he's out for weeks, whatever that means. And
yeah.
it's undisclosed what the injury is. And then Artemi Panarin, I forgot what happened to him, but he got hurt. He had to go to the locker room. He was day to day. Luckily, he was back skating with the team at practice, so he's just day to day. Hito came back, which was fantastic to see, and he scored a goal, which was great. But frustrating with Lindgren too. But just
Mm,
back to the Hito conversation, I just don't foresee a full season from him ever again. Um, and I just don't know about a long-term career with the Rangers. I mean, this is year 2 of his 4-year contract. One bad hit, one, looking down at the ice too long and getting caught on the boards. I mean, that could just be it, unfortunately. So, um, I don't know. That's my concern. That's what I'm feeling.
I mean, it's understandable, and given his history too, it's like he caught the injury bug. There's really I don't understand how he continues to get hurt. I don't understand how he continues to be compromised on the ice, but it happens, and I you can't even really blame him because it's one of those things where it's just like, what's the guy supposed to do? I mean, a lot of these times
Yeah.
he's just making hockey plays. It's not like he's going out of his way to put himself in these positions or anything like that. It's just he gets supremely unlucky. I mean, I think we're lucky that this time it seems like shouldn't be something super debilitating. He's not. So we're recording this end of the week that this will be coming out, the following Monday. He's not in the preseason game tonight, but he was skating. He was back out there. So was Panarin as well. So there's that at least. Like if we could not get hurt in the preseason, that'd be great. But at least the fact that, we're having this conversation and they are back skating on the ice. And of course, they're both out, for the latest preseason game that's coming up. But it's encouraging that they're back out there skating. Like, we don't have to worry about them being out for weeks like Lindgren, who it's just like, come on. Like, I get it. I'm not going to be mad at him for, standing up for our teammate, protecting our guys, especially Phil, who has that history of getting hurt. You kind of want to be extra careful in defending him and keeping guys away from him. But then now you're out for 2-3 weeks, buddy. And that's not something that we want to see, especially when the season starts in 2 weeks. That's the issue, is that now we're starting the year off without, likely or possibly without him on our top pair. So, okay, Ruedl's going to be in our sixth defenseman on the first
Probably.
day that we hit the ice in 2024-25. Like, that's not ideal. I mean, he's no slouch, whatever. He's a veteran guy. We talked a lot about bringing him in, and he's just a piece you can throw in. He's a depth piece. He's going to do a job. But we just gave Lindy, the 1-year contract. We had all this talk about keeping him, arbitration, everything, and now we're starting the year without him. And so, obviously not ideal. Doesn't give us like a positive, oh yeah, we're starting the season with Lindgren on a good note. We're already starting in his
Yeah,
dirt.
it fuels a lot of the haters for Lindgren big time.
Yeah,
Where they can point their
100%.
fingers and say, see, we told you. And look, I love Ryan Lindgren, but are there better defensemen out there that we could theoretically upgrade to be on that first pair with Fox? Yeah, absolutely. But
Mhm.
we don't have a blank check, and
Yeah.
we have all these big contracts to fill. That's what's tough. Like Igor, which we'll get into at the end of this episode, he wants a lot
Mhm.
of this money and take up a lot of the space, but it's like, who are we gonna fill in the blue line to help you do your job if if we give all the money to you? That's another
Yeah.
it's another issue. Like, I
Uh,
don't know. It's tough.
well, I mean, I
Uh,
know we definitely have some other better performances to talk about in the preseason, some exciting stuff to get to. But I think before we get that, if we could get a word in from our wonderful sponsors.
yes. Pull up my sponsor. So we do have two. So I'll start, and then Matt, you can finish off for that. But starting off, we have, of course, DraftKings Sportsbook. And if the NFL is here, new seasons mean new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. If you're ready to place your first bet, try betting on something simple like picking a player to score a touchdown. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the best place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium on us, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
This episode of Blue Shirts Buzz is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes it's easy to compare your life to others, especially when you're scrolling through social media. While it might look like other people have it all together, they probably don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can live your best life. I've benefited from therapy in the past and would certainly recommend it to others. It helped me learn coping skills, reduce the effects of everyday stress, set boundaries with others, and it empowered me to be the best version of myself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma, it can benefit everyone. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's totally online, super convenient, and flexible with your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/THPN. Yeah, we love to give you guys a wonderful word from our amazing sponsors. Thank you to them, and thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network that we are always grateful to be a part of and excited to still be a part of and bringing you guys this wonderful content. But yeah, like I had said before, we kind of broke for our little ads. There are some good performances this preseason that are at least exciting to look at. I mean, it's the preseason, so you kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, who really cares? None of this really matters. Preseason
Unless you
professional
get
sports
injured,
are that's when it
then it
matters.
matters. Yeah.
But like the sports itself, I mean, preseason and professional sports honestly never really matter. It's like the guys need to kind of get up to playing speed, but you never really play all your pro guys anyway. So you kind of just hope that when they go out there, on the first day, that it all just clicked in the off season. I don't know. The preseason's always been kind of silly to me, but some of these younger guys, some of these fringe guys have been looking pretty good. Zach Jones, that you had mentioned before, who we had talked a lot about being in this defensive core, and hopefully being a part of this defensive core for possibly a few years here. A former draft pick of ours. He looks really good. Put up a couple points as well. I believe he was power playing, quarterbacking the power play at a time as well, which is really nice because I think he's going to be that guy on power play too. Edstrom looks very versatile. So I actually wonder if we're going to see him getting more minutes in that bottom six, especially because Othman does not look great. I've been hearing that he might
Yeah.
not be ready, which is kind of unfortunate. I wonder if maybe we kind of plug that hole with like Edstrom, VC. Maybe we play a veteran guy like Adam Ernie. Like we just kind of patch it up in the bottom six for maybe a portion into the season, and maybe Othman is a kind of a later in the season call up. Who knows what that looks like? But if you just want to kind of give your thoughts on some of these guys and what you see for them getting into the season. I mean, not that any of them are necessarily going to actually play that much or play the whole year. I think Zach Jones is the one guy that's definitely going to get all that playing time. And of course, Phil looks really good as well when he wasn't hurt, so that's fun.
story of his career, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Brendan Othman, I don't think my heart can take another failed first round pick in this Rangers organization. That's really gonna eat my soul away. I mean, we're already looking at a Capo Caco failure, and that was a second overall pick. I mean, we'll see. Regardless, though, even if Caco goes off and gets 80 points this year, I don't think we can keep him just because there's just more priority in Lafreniere, Keandre Miller, Igor, maybe even Ryan Lindgren, probably not. But
Well, if he is having a year like that, like if he's projecting, having a great year, whatever, honestly, might be the best time to move him.
yeah, good trade value.
Realistically speaking, because like he's already in that conversation of getting moved by the deadline. So like, not for anything, but if he's going off and having a great year, and we might move him anyway, like take advantage of it. I'm kind of out on the Kako series to begin with.
No, me too. I'm so done with Caco.
So if we could take advantage of that, I mean,
yeah,
right?
which is a shame because if he played up to his potential, we may have won the playoffs last year and got to the Stanley Cup. Like if him and some of the other players like actually played up to what they were meant to be, things would be a lot different. And yeah, like right now, if you were to trade Caco, what would you get? A 6th-round draft pick? Maybe a 7th?
Yeah,
Even
I mean,
worse than that?
maybe
Like,
you get like a prospect and like a mid-round pick. I mean, realistically, maybe
like
even just like a mid-round pick because he's on an expiring contract.
he's on an expiring contract.
Yeah.
He can't play a full season. He's never played a full season. He's inconsistent. He can eat a lot of bottom 6 minutes though. So maybe like a 6th-round draft pick. Who cares?
I know
Like,
it's just like why not? Like whatever. But also, I mean, we could get him involved in like a salary retention kind of situation, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, if we involve him in like a 3-team deal that involves a veteran guy who has another few mil left on his contract, you could throw that team Kako and say, hey, you don't have to throw us a draft pick. Take a quarter of this guy's salary. I mean, maybe
I would
Drew's
like to
pretty good
do.
about that. So
No, he is. I would like to do like what Drury did with Goodrow, where he flipped them for a guy financially what he should have been getting paid. Like if we could flip Kako for a player who's plays the same as him and will play bottom 6 minutes, but for a fraction of what he's getting paid because Kako's getting paid so much because of his draft pedigree, that would be ideal in my opinion. But I know after this contract, I think regardless of his draft pedigree, like it's going to be performance based. So his
100%.
his contract will
I
not
mean,
be
realistically,
4
like
mil.
if he doesn't have the best year, but does a solid enough job as in that bottom 6 role for kind of the whole year, there's a situation where we could possibly, potentially bring him back at that low cost AAV, which wouldn't be the worst thing because it kind of sucks to see that like your number 2 overall pick is going to be a bottom 6 guy, but if he's going to take like a hometown kind of discount, if he's good running in the system, if he's doing whatever, like there's still that potential of him always being better at some point, maybe possibly sort of, then like why not? But
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm really not pulling for him to stay anymore though. So like I really don't care. Like if you're going to play good, just play good and be an asset and then we'll figure it all out later. But like if you're going to play like not if you're going to play poorly, like if you're not going to be that guy, if you're not going to show steps like Laugh did, if you're not going to start kind of giving us something to look forward to, then like get out of here. Stay in the bottom 6. Play 15 minutes a night. I don't want to hear about you.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree.
oh man,
I agree totally.
stuff. I mean, getting into a contract here though that has been a big conversation all off season. We've talked about it a number of times. The Igor contract, which before we had recorded, I actually mentioned to you, some of these articles that were coming out, like the number didn't necessarily look as high as we might have originally thought. But there's also a lot of moving pieces. I'm kind of referencing a couple different articles I saw that said his number like was going to be north of 10.5, and that the Rangers were basically like, yeah, we'll give it to you, which is encouraging when we were thinking it might be closer to 12 or 13. Realistically, though, and I'll kind of let you highlight the point that you brought up because I hadn't even heard about that little bit of insight from you. That number might be closer to 12. Really, it might be closer to that number. So there's still some moving parts. I think ideally we could get this done, before the beginning of the season, though,
Mhm.
because that the talk is if it's not done by the start of the season, it's not getting done until after the season, which
Right.
of course has its pros and its cons. But personally, I'd like to just get it done and just know that we have our guy locked down because there's not really a big question mark of like, oh, is he going to stay? But if he plays amazingly, and then we're talking about a contract situation in which he can now ask for like a little bit more money because of just how well he played, and we have all these other people to resign, then the conversation gets a little bit more scary and it becomes a little bit riskier because if we're not willing to meet some of those numbers, somebody will, especially maybe a team that had a down year, a team that wasn't supposed to perform the way they did, ended up having a bad year, sold at the deadline, things like that. A young team that has cap space. I mean, you never know. There could be 4 or 5 teams that are just waiting for us to drop the ball. So, very interesting situation. But I do want to let you highlight that point that you brought up to me because I think that that's something that's definitely going to drive that number up. So all these reports
Yeah.
about 10.511 really could just be a bunch of hoopla and just blowing smoke, realistically.
And I was thinking too, when you were describing that, and this is a horrible thought to have, but let's say things do go south. Um, Rangers, Igor can't get something done. Igor goes to the free market. If I am the Chicago Blackhawks, I'm picking him up. Like rebuilding team, tons of cap space,
They don't have a
future star
solid
in
goalie
Bedard.
either.
Yeah, you get a star goalie. You have Bedard and all this other young talent that are going to be on cheap contracts. And oh my god, you know, Chicago's a huge hockey
Why we gotta
market.
sign him now?
I know.
Like,
I
why?
agree. I agree. So the stuff that I've been hearing, and again, reports, beat reporters,
Mm,
half the time they could just be making stuff up. Who knows? I'd like to think some of them aren't because some of these people that you see have been around for a long time and they get like certain credible sources, this and that. So basically, Igor is top five, one of the top five goaltenders in the league. Um, he's very consistent. He performs in the postseason very well. He's the reason the team has been where they have been for the last probably 4 years, I would say 4 or 5. Probably, no, just 4 years, and he's really helped the team do what they need to do, and he's going to get paid, right? I don't disagree with that. Um, he's going to be the face of the franchise. He needs to get money, but it's not a one man show, and it's a shame that hockey is like the one sport where you don't want to pay your players just because of how stupid the cap is, and Gary Bettman and all these other morons that run the league just make it so you just don't want to pay your players. The other issue is goaltending historically is very volatile. You could have someone who is an amazing goalie for 3 years, and then the next 3 years they're horrible. You had Sorokin last year who signed his extension and played poorly, very poorly. So now you have Islander fans questioning that contract. Um, you had Vasilevsky, who was incredible Hall of Famer for sure. And now the last 2 years he's been kind of meh, partially because he had injuries and he had surgery, this and that. You had Carey Price, 10.5 million, playing incredible. Knee injury, never to be seen again. Um, you had Bob, who just won the Stanley Cup. He was hit or miss for a lot until last year. He really locked in.
mm,
So again, I wanna pay Igor, but it has to make sense too. Is it gonna be above 10.5? Yes. Now, the reports I've heard is that not only does Igor's camp want to make him the highest paid goaltender, which will just happen for the time being. I mean, Leon Draisaitl's now the highest paid player over Austin Matthews,
mm.
which is insane. Um, just wait till Connor McDavid needs a contract in a
Yeah.
year. I can only imagine the money that's gonna be. He could literally walk in with a blank check and write whatever number he wants, and teams will pay it because how do
Mm,
you not? He's not just the face of the Oilers, he's the face of the NHL. He's like the Messi of the NHL. He can get whatever he wants.
yeah.
Um, And the thing is, what if we re-sign Igor and then Connor McDavid comes to New York? No. The thing is, he was
Where's the
saying,
cap coming from?
yeah, exactly. We're just gonna break the rules. So basically, he wants to be the highest paid goaltender, but he also wants to be the highest paid Ranger in franchise history currently. Right now, the highest paid New York Ranger player in franchise history is Artemi Panarin, making 11.6. So that's right at that 12 mil that I kind of wasn't happy with. Like, he wants to be above 10.5. Okay, how about 10,501,000? No, how about like 11 million? I think is extremely fair.
Mm.
Adding another mil on there, like some people could say, "Oh, who cares? It's another million here and there," but it's like,
That's like a
you know,
role player. That's a mill that you could throw in on a
yeah,
contract for somebody else to
yeah,
sweeten the deal. Like, yeah, that's valuable money. Yeah,
it's
even though
valuable money.
it seems small, but that's valuable money.
Yeah. And getting Trouba off the books would help a lot too. Like, if we didn't have this
Well,
$8 million just being
yeah.
wasted into the wind,
What a
it,
day that would be.
yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be much of a problem. And again, there's more, Larry Brooks doubled down on his point that Trouba, when he would, because of the whole media interviewed him, but Trouba doubled down on, like, if I get traded, I'm not going to report. So who's to
Mhm,
say next year when his 15 team close goes to 12, and then Drury's like, okay, hey, we're thinking of trading you. What if he says that again? I'm just not going
mhm.
to report. And now we're like, okay, well, how are we going to sign Igor, Laugh, and blah 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 blah? That's the problem. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest issue. So that's what I've heard. Could be complete lies. Take it with a grain of salt if you want. But part of me doesn't think it is a lie because a deal still hasn't been done. When both parties want to maintain this relationship,
Mm,
I think there's a little bit of greed on Igor's camp side, which I don't blame him. Like, you're a professional athlete, put your body on the line every day. You want to get paid when you want to get paid. Just again, unfortunately, with the way the NHL works, you just don't want to pay your players because then you can't have a team. And that's my only concern is we have seen signs of Igor for whatever reason the last 2 years, 1 month out of every year, he'll just play horrendously and then he'll lock in again. I don't know what that is. So who's to
mm.
say that doesn't that turns into 2 months of the year or it becomes 3 months of the year? Like that's a concern. But I understand it's if you want to be a serious team, as you pointed out, you have to pay your star players. But
Mm.
I just hope there could be some middle ground. Like Igor's like, oh, I want to stay here. Well, prove it then. We're gonna pay you more than 10.5. Why you got to be a greedy ass and ask for 2 million extra on top of that? Like, I get New York State taxes blow. Don't get me wrong. Like, we live here. We know. Like, we make a fraction of
Mm.
what you make, and the taxes still kill us. But like, I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking.
Well, I get it, and I understand the angle. I guess I'm on the other side of the coin where I'm all in on Igor. I just the flip side of the coin for me in terms of like if we're gonna worry about that decline with Igor, it's like, well, who's gonna do better? Who could we get realistically that's going to play comparable or better than a declining Igor? And realistically, there's no one. I mean, that's a situation you don't want to be in. That's a situation where we're trying to trade a team who is falling apart for a goalie that is historically good but is getting older and older. And it's like we have a goalie in our system already who's getting older and older, but they're here and we know that they can perform and perform at a very high level, considering that they're one of the best two or three goalies in the league realistically. So for me, I'm all in. Obviously, I don't want to just give him a check and say 14, 13 mil, whatever it is, right? Like those numbers are not numbers that should be in this conversation. But if they are in the conversation, we need to maybe kind of try and get him to come down a little bit. But realistically, we have to pay him. That's I think I'm just in the boat now of just hoping the number is not super high is kind of where I'm at. I know the number is going to be high. I know that he's going to get paid if we really want to keep him, which I believe that we do. I think that's what's best for the organization as well. I think one thing that I've been seeing mirrored by a lot of the fans in different conversations online that I do have to agree with is the kind of no move clause aspect. It's like if we're giving you bank over 6, 7, 8 years, can you just, like, be nice and not force a no move on there for the rest of your career? Because that
Yeah.
puts us in a really bad spot. I'm not
Yes.
worried about being put in a bad spot with a declining goalie years from now. That's not an unusual spot. Teams find themselves in that spot all the time. It's easy to get out of. You can make it work. Even when Lundqvist was declining, we were still able to win. We were still a competitive
Yeah.
franchise. We didn't do a lot of other things around him to keep us in that kind of competitive sphere, we kind of had to retool and we missed the playoffs that one year as well. But when you go, you make that conversation about Igor, we still have years before that's even a possibility for Igor, just considering that he still seems like a goalie in his prime, especially after this postseason, just the way that he played out of his skin. So for me, I'm not really worried about the decline and, that kind of aspect of it. I would be more worried about if there's that no move clause. How long is that? What does that look like? Is that getting modified towards the end? Because I would like us to have some kind of out, especially considering that we're likely giving him like 7 years at like 12 mil. I mean, dude, you don't get 7 years, 10 to also be the highest paid Ranger of all time. Oh, and you stay in here the whole time. Like, no. Obviously, the idea is to keep you here the whole time, but this is like you said, this is a professional sport. Goalies are very volatile as well. So at any given time, especially towards the middle to the end of that contract, we may be in a situation where it's like, yikes, Igor's not it anymore. And if that is a situation you don't want to be in with him having a no move clause attached to it. So
Yeah.
that's really where my kind of concern comes in, is that length with that no move clause. What does that look like? What's that relationship?
Mhm.
That's kind of my primary concern, because I know he's getting paid, and I
Oh,
think he
yeah.
should. I
Yeah.
mean, just thinking the fact that he's been making what, like 5.5 mil
I think
playing at a
yeah,
Vezina
or
level
6
every
something.
year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's totally realistic and it's totally fair to be shooting him all that money. I just hope
Yeah.
that we're not committing to that no move forever. That's
I
that's
I
my
agree with you, exactly. Yeah, and maybe that is
yeah.
what the holdup is. Maybe Igor's camp's like, "Okay, we want
Yeah.
12." And then Drury's like, "Okay, yeah, sure, 12, no problem." And then they go, "And we want a no move clause." And then Drury's like,
Mhm.
"Well, no." And if
'Cause
I'm
that's like,
Drury
well, like, yeah.
yeah, like, if I'm Drury, I'm gonna say either A, you get this high AAV with no move clause without a no move clause,
Mhm.
or B, if you want the no move clause, we're gonna shave some money off the
Yeah.
AAV. And that's honestly very fair, I think. I think that's very fair for both sides. You can't have your cake and eat it too, Igor, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but I think we can call that an episode if you have unless you have anything else you wanna
No, I'm
throw
just
in.
glad to be back. I was actually just thinking the same thing. This one felt really nice. Just looked up and realized we've been rolling for a half hour. Didn't even
Oh,
realize. It's nice to be back. It is. It's nice to be back. And moving forward, we'll work out the schedules and everything, and hopefully, I won't be caught at work late hours of the night. But
well,
of course, we'll make that work. We'll get all the content out for you guys. And when this comes out, season will be less than 2 weeks away.
yeah.
Right now, it is literally 2 weeks away. And it's funny that I know we've our DraftKings ad, we've been focused more on football there because obviously the football season starts. The Giants are playing tonight. So before we end, I do just want to ask your and I because I heard this on the radio all day today. Do you think it's more likely tonight that the Giants keep it a close game or they get totally blown out? And
It's
like not
tough.
even, and if it is a close game, like not even that they win. Just there's a belief from some fans that they are going to be competitive. They are going to bring their game. The defense is going to make it really hard on Dak, and this is going to be a good game. And then there's the other side of the fan base that are like, what are we going off of? Dallas outscored us by 60 plus points last year. You guys are delusional. And so I'm just curious where you're sitting on that.
If Dallas didn't have as many cracks so far, like both teams are 1 and 2,
Mhm.
which is crazy.
Yeah, I didn't expect that from the Cowboys at all.
I will say the Giants defense has been more disappointing than I expected.
Yeah,
The
and
edge
especially I know
rushers have
Drew
been
Phillips is out, and
yeah, but
Dory Jackson too.
both our starting cornerbacks are out, and
Yep.
to preface, those starting cornerbacks were not good. So
No, so who if their backups aren't going to be
right.
much better, right?
So CeeDee Lamb's gonna have a field day. Um,
Mm,
and I think the only way the Giants win is if they score probably 30 points, which even with Malik Neighbors standing on his
mhm.
head, it's just not possible. I don't see the Giants winning. Getting blown out. All right, if I had to put money on it, so I don't waste people's time here. Um, I don't think they get blown out, no. But I don't think they
Fair enough.
win. I think they will lose, but I
Yeah.
don't think they
No,
will
I
get
I'm
blown
with
out.
you. That's why I
Yeah.
thought it was interesting because it's also maybe it's kind of funny. It's a little silly because when you guys are listening to this, you'll know exactly how the game went. But
Yes, exactly.
this is fun for us, and actually, I try and catch some of that game tonight.
Yeah,
Obviously,
me
probably be
too.
falling asleep towards the end, but eh.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
Well, I mean, with that though, I think I'll start rolling us out of this one. Thank you all for listening. Of course, thank you all for the support. Definitely check out socials, BlueBuzz26. Get the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all of them. We'll keep rolling this content for you. We got less than 2 weeks for the regular season, so definitely keep an eye out. You will definitely be getting 2 episodes a week. Episode at the beginning of the week, episode at the end of the week. We're definitely going to work on that and make sure that we're getting content out to you guys. Don't you worry. We are incredibly excited about the regular season finally coming, and we will continue to bring that excitement and bring the energy and bring all that good stuff to you guys at home as well. And we hope that you're excited too. Just can't wait for this season and can't wait to catch as much of it as possible and hopefully see something really special, because this team has a lot of potential and could do some really special things this year. So thank you all for making our experience very special and all the love and support that we've been getting from you guys. This is the last you'll hear from me on this one. And I'll shoot it over to John to close this out.
Thank you as always. Get absolutely pumped, get excited, take out the jerseys, take out the beanies, whatever it is. Grab your loved ones, get ready for the game, buy tickets. Thank you again for listening. Check us out every week. Again, as Matt said, the socials, I won't repeat everything. Really appreciate all the love and support. Tell your friends, family, and loved ones about the show. We really do appreciate you all coming back, and we will catch you on the next one.